The hype goes, the threat remains. Hello, I'm Zsolt Fabian. I'm a security researcher. I'm a security manager. I have a background developing information retrieval technologies, search engines. I remember 15 years ago, I was giving an educational session on search engine internals, and I was talking about how people adapted their behavior to get search results by knowing what to type into the input field of a search engine. I'm also mentoring young people developing AI-assisted radar algorithms that are seeing through wall and are able to reconstruct human pose. I'm representing Byborg Enterprises, a premium online entertainment company defining the future of human interactions and reshaping digital relationships through innovative technology. We have 45 million monthly users using our streaming and technology products. We enable them to interact in new and meaningful ways, 24/7. We have a wide variety of products, companies, and these have different technology intensities. They have different needs, and they have different risk appetite. My responsibility as a group cybersecurity lead is to balance in between these. Today, I'm going to talk about the intersection of the imperatives of enterprise security and cutting-edge AI technology, since you are all interested in this. I think now there are enough write-ups and publications on the internet how to create your own acceptable use policy. So I decided to share our own story, our own perception of it. I got a lot of inquiries also from here, Luxembourg. Hey, now I need to create a security policy for ChatGPT. So I hope it will help. I will be very practical. We was, my team, early adopters of this technology, so to say. We started with GPT-2, exploring how we can use it with regulation technology, with education technology, how it can change security awareness. Then, end of last year, one of my mentors was calling me that, hey, I'm writing my homework with GPT-3. Then GPT-4 came, which had seemingly more intelligent responses. It was amazing. And now, boom, it is integrated into almost every single product as humanity is exploring its uses. So it's now not only chat.openai.com. So in order to learn, explore the uses, figure out the potential risks and the potential mitigation options, I was summoned the collective intelligence, my team. And we had long discussions about that. It was interesting because next to the meeting room, the topic was displayed and people was trying to come in if they can learn something. Unfortunately, in my profession, cybersecurity, we often need to communicate in analogs to tell and to explain complex technological issues. So my first practical thing would be about the output. And I am personally concerned about the outputs of these systems. Why? Because the output, which will change the course of action of yours and maybe your peers and your company. Before I would tell the first key takeaway, please consider that these language models allegedly can generalize the underlying process of what was generating the training text or the training data. But it's not equal to thinking. For thinking, you are using your brain, which is a complex machinery, which is highly differentiated and integrated in many ways. The output is a linguistic construct. It's just like a scientific hypothesis that has not been falsified yet. So, first, use it like a GPS. This is the easiest takeaway. If you are not looking and you are not aware, it can easily misguide you. I know that it is difficult to ask people who are using this for productivity to please read the output that you are publishing. If it is really representing what you want to say, if it is reasonable, and if it is complete. Of course, there are some nuances like copyright, legal aspects, privacy aspects, but these are just nuances at the moment, since the hype still goes on. My second key takeaway would be, please assess the use cases. If you are about to write a security policy or an acceptable use policy for this, you alone will not be able to know all the possible use cases that are going on at your company. Early in January, of course I cannot share exact numbers, 5 to 10% of our working population was accessing OpenAI.com, the chat OpenAI.com, 5 to 10%. And at that time it was only GPT-3. The situation got even worse since that, I believe. So, because they know better than you, it is difficult to assess the use cases. You need to create, as a security guy, an open atmosphere to let people talk about it, how they are using it. You will find that there are very unusual ways how they are using it. Of course, there are some common practices. People are using this for programming, for marketing. My favorite example is recruitment. We had an internal opening for penetration tester application security engineer, and I was asking the recruitment team to send out an internal newsletter to let people know about it. So the proposal was, dear colleagues, we have new opening X, please apply. Okay, so that was the first interdepartmental use, because we wanted to have something more compelling, much more interesting, and GPT was coming up with a nice newsletter text. You are exploring other possibilities, like business planning, drafting legal documents, financials, but these are grossly inconsistent. I think we both know this. Okay. So the third one is educate. You might not be able to fully control it or control anything else apart that. You need to educate. You need to get all the inputs from assessing the use cases, then you can write or generate an acceptable use policy with ChatGPT, possibly. But if you write 2 pages of a policy text, do you know what will happen to that? People will enter it into ChatGPT to summarize it for them. So you need to use other learning techniques like microlearning, nano-learning to get your message through. Now the inputs. Many are concerned about what goes on, why it is so compelling about it that people are uploading management summaries, executive reports, personal data, proprietary code, legal documents into ChatGPT. Normally, in business as usual, it shouldn't happen that people are uploading things like these into an uncontrolled environment. So I don't even understand what has changed. So regarding to controls then, because ChatGPT is not the only technology that is being used, you need to have some sort of third-party software, some sort of third-party application service management in place in order to be able to define constrained uses and unconstrained uses for image generation, for text generation, whatever. Regarding to controls, I believe one of the most important things here is visibility. If something goes wrong, you need to preserve the ability to have the history, what input was generating what output, and be able to trace that back at your organization. If you are just grossly block it, people are going to pick up their phones with 5G connection, and they will use it even if you are blocking the site itself. Now you cannot even block the site itself because it is integrated in so many third parties that people are willing to transcribe Teams meetings and summarize them with GPT and so. So visibility. You might be able to actually control it, but data leak prevention was difficult already before the AI era. It will be even more difficult now. You might need to deploy some edge AI, guardrails, whatever, to your organization in order to be able to control with an AI the use of AI based on policies which were generated by AI. Hell of a life. So we arrived back to the point, which I think is the main consideration in my talk, is reliability of these systems because of the outputs that it's generating. EU regulation might soften the impact of it. But the key problem is not a technological one, it is a human problem, I believe, and a communication problem, as I explained. The key problem here is that your colleagues and you may perceive it something like a human, because you are not competent in nanotechnology, and you can talk about it with this system. It seems like it is something like a human because it understands your language, or it seems like. But even if it seems to be human or superhuman, it is not, and this is the biggest mistake that you can make. You are the result of millions of years of genetic evolution. In parallel, you are also the result of years of cultural evolution, and these two threads were interacting with each other in between. The human culture is evolving. You are evolving, models are evolving even faster, but they are not human. Let me give another example. It might display it more closely. Today, we have superhuman image classification algorithms. Everyone knows that. You still need to solve CAPTCHA. Early image classification algorithms were based on an idea inspired by the nature, how your visual cortex is being built with convolutional networks. But the early versions were vulnerable to adversarial examples. So if you are taking a picture of a cat and you are changing some pixel intensities, then the computer will recognize it as a dog. Today, when the taxi driver brought me here, I would expect her to make human-like mistakes if she died, but she didn't. For example, she didn't drive into a truck which had a cloud painted on its side. An autopilot would have killed me. So the key takeaway here is that you believe that it will make human-like behavior, human-like mistakes, but you see, especially with the numbers game, that it is not human and it is making very unique, unexpected behavior. So before it will change the world of how we do work and we deploy automated multi-agent systems, you shall consider all of this. The key takeaway from my keynote would be to embrace the responsible use of it, assess the use cases, create an acceptable use policy, and educate. Thank you very much.